Hello, everybody. It's 7:56 p.m. Central Time on the 10th of October, 2023. Breaking news for everybody here. We got a large earthquake, 6.5 plus. Bigger than the original one that just struck a few days ago over in Afghanistan on the north side of the plate boundary. This is the second large earthquake. This one is bigger than the previous one that struck that was 6 to 6.2. This one 3 times bigger, and it likely caused devastating damage across the area. I know it's sparsely populated, however, it is a very large earthquake. This is what we were looking for to happen. Unfortunately, this is right up there in the 6.5 upper level. Let's go get the stats on this. Who's reporting this? Geophone Potsdam. Bringing it in at 6.3 to 6.5. Okay, so this has not been reviewed by a seismologist yet. We'll see what they come in at ultimately. It was a big quake, regardless of whatever they ultimately come in at. Now, we were looking for 6.5 level activity to reappear this week. This is part of the forecast. If you're not aware of the forecast, I'll just tell you about it. We issued warnings for different level activity to come back up. We were looking for a return of 6s this past week. We had gone several weeks without any significant sized earthquakes, and then we've now seen 7 in the last 5 days. Counting in the new 6 that struck down here in Argentina, just north of the big arrow where it points to. We were looking for the Chile, Argentina, Bolivia border region right here to break with a significant sized earthquake, as well as up to the north at Colombia. And that's what we've got going on now. We've got a 6 that struck here today in Argentina, causing pretty serious damage. We'll see if those videos come out. They're being assembled now, I think, on Disaster Compilations channel. And also, massive fires have broken out here in Argentina. And I posted those videos over on my YouTube page. Let's go over to my YouTube page, community page. You should probably come over and check it. You go to my YouTube page and just click on community, and you'll see recent posts which I've made. Anyway, here's the fires, and I'm not going to go too much next level into this, except for just to show you how far reaching the fires are in Argentina. They're coming in on the town Villa Carlos Paz, wherever that is. That's in south central Argentina. So a lot going on. Again, 6.0 level activity, Argentina, Chile border region. 5.0 level activity up by Colombia off the coast. 6.5 is struck over here at the Afghanistan north side of the plate boundary. Let's get a USGS reported quake on here just so you can see these plate boundaries that I talk about regularly. The USGS page, it's just something you should reference, the plate boundaries. There's our new quake. USGS has it at 6.3, just like the last one from a few days ago. So you may remember a few days ago, 6.6 is what struck. USGS downgraded to 6.3. Well, now we have a 6.5, and they downgraded to 6.3. Looks like they're not going to let it go above 6.3 in this area. Notice where it is, the red dot. It's at the Afghanistan, Iran, Turkmenistan border. Now you'll notice down in Pakistan and to the south, that's where the plate boundary is. And I showed this to you in my last updates, several last updates, but I'll bring you over here again to the Mideast, and we'll look down in on the area. Here's Iran, here's Afghanistan, and here's Pakistan on the south side. Now, as I zoom in, you should be able to see the mountain ranges actually make a break. They, like a flowing river, they flow on the north side of Iran and Afghanistan, and on the south side, they go down through Pakistan. Again, it looks like a flowing river. The plate boundary goes to the south, and on the north side, USGS doesn't have anything marked. So 2 videos ago, last week, I started talking about this north side, east of Tehran, west, northwest of Nepal, up in here for the new break to watch for. And we were not let down. First a 6.3, now a 6.5, or you could just say 2 6.3s over the course of several days. It's a big quake. It could go bigger. They may actually even revise this upward. They don't just downgrade quakes, guys. They can also upgrade quakes if it's a bigger quake and they didn't detect it at first. I would think that we're probably limited on sensors as we go over across this area. Now, they can detect large earthquakes all the way around the world. This size should be detectable by most agencies around the world. So if I sound like I'm losing my voice, it's because I am. Okay, let's go up to the north. Allergy season for me, guys. Allergies. So 4.5 struck up at the Arctic Circle south of Jan Mayen, or right next to the island of Jan Mayen. Did I say south of? There's Jan Mayen, a little speck. It's northeast of Jan Mayen, south of Svalbard. And we were looking for a 4.7, 5.0 range quake to strike out here, and the reason we were looking for the North Arctic Circle to get hit, I talked about this in my last video. 5.0 energy coming out of Europe at Slovakia, and a 4 point something coming out at Poland. Two of the same size quakes, 4.5 to 5, and now a 4.5 to 5 striking out to the north. The only thing we're looking for now in between is the halfway point between these two quakes if we go following these arrows. So, halfway point around this bend brings us right in here off the coast of Scotland. I'm going to look for an earthquake to break there at that halfway point as well. If you're down in Australia, check this out. All the same sized earthquakes, 3.2, 3.2, 3.2, going from the northwest to the southeast to the southwest in a big triangle-like shape. And we're going to expect something like a 4 to strike down here by Adelaide. If you took all these 3s and added them together, that total is going to strike down here. Kangaroo Island, Adelaide. So get ready for that. It's an incoming push coming across Australia. South America, we're looking for a big earthquake to strike up here on the north side now. Now that a 6 point something earthquake struck on the south side plus fires, I'd look for it right in the middle of this whole hot mess where all the rings are overlapping. Panama, Colombia is where I've got the warning going there. This is just an update video. I'm not doing any new forecast in this. Tomorrow I will be issuing a new 7-day forecast, which is based upon my video yesterday, where I've really issued the preliminary warnings as of yesterday. How about in the United States? Check this out. Yellowstone and Texas starting to move pretty significantly. Texas, 4.0 down at the pumping operations. I took screenshots of that and shared that over on my community page. It's at Nordheim, Texas. Really weird that that's Nordheim, Texas, because I started using a service yesterday, and the USGS kind of letting me know that they know. The service I started using isn't called Nordheim. Okay, let's go in and zoom in on the nearest frack well. This is wastewater disposal, where they actually inject water down into the ground, chemical-laden water that breaks apart the shale, releases oil and gas, then they pump it out. Look at how many different drill points there are. All these little white spots on the ground are different drill points. Oil and gas. So it's major, major, major drilling here. And so think of all these as perforation points in the plate. And every perforation point is, well, like a perforation in a piece of stone. And when a vibrating wave comes across, it breaks. Now, we get the same sized earthquakes up here, up at the Puget Sound, 4 to 4.3. Then a 4 to 4.3 strikes down at Texas. In between the two, Yellowstone broke inside the park with the same sized earthquakes as what's going across the rest of the area, 3.2s. You may remember 3.1 to 3.2 is the discussion that we had yesterday. 3.2 in West Texas, 3.1 to 3.2 in Central Texas. Now we get a 3.2 on the edge of the Craton up to the northwest. It's all the same size quakes, guys. Come on. It's literally the same size quakes. Going from Canada all the way down into the United States, down to Texas. They're just taking a slight step down as we come in from the northwest. And when I say that, take a look. It's a 4.8 up off the coast and a 4.2. Then a 4.3 to 4.5 in the Puget Sound, then a 4.0 down in Texas. That's not that much loss of energy to lose a half magnitude from Canada all the way down to Texas. Now, from Canada to Texas, this matches this perfectly. And the earthquakes match this perfectly. There's a spread of earthquakes that goes down. Oh, excuse me 1 second, guys. I got a sneeze coming now. Hold on. Wow. Yeah, goldenrod, right? Okay. Ragweed, actually. The ragweed, not goldenrod. Goldenrod's the beneficial plant. Ragweed's the bad thing. So, anyway, I'm sneezing and coughing and losing the voice every year. Okay, up to the east-northeast, check it out. We got an earthquake at the New York border. So we were looking for an earthquake at the New York border. I talked about this. I said, look, we have to watch as far north as the Quebec-New York border and as far south as Virginia. But Magnitude, I totally missed on this so far. I'm looking for 3.0 plus up to near 4, maybe 3.9. Instead, it's a 1. That's 100 times less power than I'm looking for to strike on the East Coast. Location-wise, it's spot on. So north of New York, Pennsylvania. All right. But halfway point between these two quakes brings us right in here. And guess what's there? Delaware, Washington, D.C., north side of Virginia, and the south side of New Jersey. Maryland, too. So we've got a fair amount in there. Locations that could be hit. Let's go back to the start of the update, guys. Big earthquake struck all the way over here in the area we were looking. 6.3 to 6.5. Let's hit refresh on this. See what they have it at now. 6.2. All right. I mean, they'll play with the numbers. It's a big quake. Struck in the previous area. And I'm just going to tell you right now, likely caused some serious damage because the first one killed 2,000 people. We also have some news I need to talk about here over in Hawaii. Check it out. New swarm is broken out in Hawaii, as well as all kinds of talk from the professionals in Hawaii about the potential of short-term eruptive activity that could happen within hours, where they'll have only 1 to 2 hours warning before it happens. The tilt meters are going up in Hawaii. The sulfur deposits are increasing on top of the lava. I'm just going to say it. We should watch there, and I've already put out the links to Doing Hawaii and to Pineapple, so you guys can watch live. And they're great. Both streams are awesome. Whichever one you go into, you're going to find nice people, and you're going to find people concerned about the Hawaii situation. I'm still going to look for Hawaii to go back up to near 5.0 level activity down by Pu'u'o'o. But if we get a new eruptive event instead, I mean, that'll be the earthquake we're looking for. It'll be the thousands of smaller earthquakes. And if you actually go over to their streams, which I will tell you to do one more time. Let me get that open here so you can see what I'm talking about. If you go over to Two Pineapples or Doing Hawaii, you will find the spectros that they have attached down below. And on the spectros, it's worth noting that people are saying it looks like a drummer was beating the drum earlier. Now you're getting these every once in a while, these small earthquakes. You know, the 1s and 2s are showing up as a yellow, and maybe an upper 2 might show as a yellow slight red. If you see any big red ones that go on for a while, that's big earthquake activity. At Kilauea, we're going to watch for the earthquakes to increase. And then you can see it steaming here on the screen. It's Two Pineapple stream live. This is what I'm talking about with the sulfur deposits on the edge. Now, just keep an eye on it. I'm not saying it's going to blow or anything. That's for up to the professionals to say. I just think that we need to keep an eye on it. Last time we saw sulfur deposits, we saw a big blast. What else happened? Oh, in the last day and a half, look at the stepping stone path of earthquakes going across the whole area from Fiji, across up into Guam, up into Japan, beyond Japan to North Japan, where Hokkaido got hit yesterday. Last night, Hokkaido got hit at the Kuril Islands. And if you were keeping track of areas that we were looking for, Hokkaido was named at the North Island, Hokkaido going into the Kuril Islands. But look at the stepping stone path. A 4.7 to 4.9 earthquake struck right next to Guam. You see this here? USGS has it at 4.9, right? So why didn't they issue a tsunami watch or warning with this one? 4.9 on the Izu Ridge. Well, they did it with this one up here. This 4.9. They said it caused a tsunami. I'm thinking that was a bigger quake, guys. I'm thinking they took a 6-point-something quake and took it down to a 4.9, trying to hide it. That the bigger quake struck there. And it caused a tsunami, which then they issued a warning for. And then they changed the earthquake, or reported the quake, at 4.9. That's what I think probably happened, as opposed to them completely faking an earthquake for insurance fraud purposes. I don't know, which do you want to think? 4.9s cause tsunamis? If they do, why didn't they issue a warning for the 4.9 down here? This one. Is it okay for me to start making videos that say potential tsunami when we have a 4.8 to 4.9 earthquake somewhere? Would it be prudent for me to do that? I wonder if the general public would jump down my throat if I started telling people to watch for potential tsunamis on 4.9 quakes. Like the USGS did yesterday. They said potential tsunami on this right here off the coast of Japan on a 4.9. And nobody said anything, like it was no big deal. So if I do it, do you think it should? And don't say that they're the professionals. They didn't have any charts, graphs, or anything that they could base it on. They just said they thought there was going to be one. Right? Like no tilt meters, no buoys are going off, nothing like that. You just got to ask the question. So another 4.9 struck somewhere else, and no tsunami warning, or even watch, or even talk about it was issued. I wonder why. It should trouble you that they're actually faking tsunamis, right? Okay, let's go and talk about the west coast of the United States. So, not only did Yellowstone get hit, but we're back up here. We got a 4.0 earthquake downgraded to 3.8. This is actually at the geysers of California. Geyserville, like Clear Lake Volcano. Now, don't be alarmed. Just because it says geysers and just because it's a volcano does not mean that it's going to erupt. However, a 4.0 earthquake here is pretty significant. Let's put the coordinates in and go show you what's at the epicenter. Drill points. Drill points into a volcano. Now you understand why the seismic wave that's coming through the area is seeking this spot out, as opposed to going over to the San Andreas or the Napa Valley. So drill points, and we have drill points where we're injecting sewage into the ground to steam it off to get the fluid out, the water, which comes up and turns the turbines, leaves the nasties in the ground. Clear Lake volcanic field on the side of it, 4.0 quake. Now, that's bigger than what's over at Yellowstone. But Yellowstone, the number of earthquakes at Yellowstone started to increase over this past week. A swarm took place at Yellowstone. When not to be confused with tremors that happen there every day, hundreds of them. An actual swarm of earthquakes took place. Now, you should be able to do the child's game of connect the dots here, going from Idaho over to Yellowstone and going from Montana down to Yellowstone. It makes almost like an arrow-like shape. Let me turn off the magnitude so you can see that. See that? So 10 years ago, when I noticed this was happening, like an arrow-like shape, that's why we have arrows there. That's on the edge of the North American Craton. Let's go back and turn on the Craton graphic one more time. Look in the northwest. Look through Washington and Idaho and Yellowstone. The arrow tip points right into Yellowstone Park on the edge of the Craton at Wyoming. See that? The earthquakes match it. So before I had the arrows on here, I just had the earthquakes to go on, and you'll see that they actually do the same thing in Utah. They come out to a pinnacle point like an arrow pointing east. Once you get there, then you get a line of earthquakes going through Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, the New Madrid seismic zone in the East Coast over to Fort Jackson, and up to the far northeast on the edge of the Craton to the northeast. Fort Jackson over in South Carolina, military base getting hit there. New Madrid seismic zone here getting hit next to a Native American mound. A large Native American mound at New Madrid, right? They used to put conch shells. The Native American people would put conch shells in the center of the mounds. I'm personally thinking wireless power. That's why the king would wear the conch shell on their third eye, and then they'd have the conch shells in the mounds, and the mounds generating radio frequency. And that's why they're putting radio towers on top of a lot of the mounds, and railroad tracks and power lines over the mounds in most of the states, or right next to them, if you go look it up. They're collecting electricity from those locations and reselling it to the public. Same with the volcanoes out in the west. Somebody in the power company knows. Probably some higher echelon power company, secret society of power engineers. Ha! Taking Benjamin... Hey, look what I was just telling you. Seriously, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you the power lines are being used to collect power. We're getting earthquakes next to them. The very low frequency. And the volcanoes that are next to these spots, as well as the drill points. So, Crater of Diamonds volcano down here, but this is the edge of the Craton. You see it actually goes across Arkansas and makes a bend down to Dallas, Texas there. Actually makes a hard bend to the south. Then it goes down through Texas and makes a hard bend back up to the north. This is not a river valley. This is actually a 1,000-foot bulge. Goes up 1,000 feet from here to here. All the way around. Anyway, you come up around the edge of the Craton, you make a hard bend to the east by northeast. I just want to zoom in and see, is there anything here aside from the folds and bends in the Craton worth looking into? And, of course, the power lines that are going across the edge of the folds of the bend of the Craton. You know, Arkansas had a lot of pumping operations they did, but then they stopped after the 5.0 level earthquakes. started to strike at the pumping ops. But I'm just wondering if there's any here nearby. That's what I'm looking for right now. These look like maybe public lands, national forest of some kind, or state forest. And we've got houses and no drilling here in the area as far as I can see. Let me show you an example of excess drilling here in the area, just so you can see what I'm talking about with the drilling. So all of these little pads on the ground, just like down in Texas or anywhere else where we show fracking, you get tanks, pumps, pipes, pipeline, jacks. Mainly this is fracking though. All of these are different frac wells. So then we back it out and you start to see that they're nestled into the hillsides all the way around here. And we'll wait for this to load. There we go. So now that you know what to look for and you see how many there are, I have to just follow this down just to the south and see where it putters out. So our nearest drill points come into this town right here, right across the river. There's the earthquake. And here's our nearest drill point. No, that's power. That's power generator. Oh, wow. Power substation. What are the chances, right? Those are chicken farms there, by the way, in case you didn't know. What do we got going on here? What is this place? What the? It's a recycling factory of some kind? I don't know. Let's go see. Packaging. A packaging facility. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so drill points come down to here. Wow, we got more power coming through the area. You got to be kidding me. Look at that. Look at all the power lines coming together there. Okay, there we go. That's frac well. So we're going right on the other side of town there. I'm going to measure and see how far that is to the nearest marked wells. When's our flyover date on here? 2021, okay. 20 miles at the most over to the other side of Morrilton, Conway. Oh. How did I not see? Oh, I didn't have the names on. Okay. There is a serious story on this. This is where I got my start on YouTube. Back in 2010. So, a long time ago, kids. BB Greenbrier, Arkansas, Conway. Here's Greenbrier. And I don't know exactly where BB is in here, but it's right next to it. It's somewhere right in here. Anyway, back to 2010. New Year's Eve 2010. Around here, a bunch of birds, thousands and thousands of birds started falling out of the sky with their insides, unfortunately, cooked or exploded. All over the area on New Year's Eve. So New Year's Day comes and the mainstream media is reporting on all these dead birds that are all over the place. This is New Year's Day of 2011 because at the end of 2010, okay, so New Year's Eve 2010 going into 2011. Mainstream media tried to blame it on fireworks from New Year's Eve. But unfortunately for the mainstream media, it carried on for a few days afterwards. Then tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of fish turned up dead in several of the springs or in several of the creeks that are spring fed around Greenbrier BB. Then an earthquake swarm broke out, all within a day or two of each other. So first the birds, then the fish, then the big earthquake swarm. And it was thousands of earthquakes striking here. I made one of my first videos speaking in the video. And I zoomed in on the area and I didn't have this high resolution imagery at Greenbrier. But when I zoomed in, I was able to make out at this level that there were these pads with something on them. And you could even see that there was what looked like pipeline that was going out from them. And I made my video and I said, I don't know what these pads are here, but it looks like they're all over the place. And I don't know what to make of it other than we have an earthquake swarm right there. Now, it turned out they're fracking operations. And the pipes going through the woods were pipeline connecting between each pumping operation. But a bunch of people showed up and said that it was water pipeline and that there was no drilling there at all. And Texas is the drill points. There are no drill points in Arkansas, or if they are, they're really old oil, and blah, blah, blah. You're just a tree hugger hippie You're a hippie tree hugger conspiracy theorist for saying that these are drill points, and that drill points can lead to earthquakes. It's well-established science that drill points don't lead to earthquakes. Otherwise, we'd see earthquakes reported out of Saudi Arabia, they said. Okay, so the denial happened. Then something even more strange happened. Right next to here is Little Rock, Arkansas. And Little Rock, Arkansas has a radar station there, a NEXRAD radar. I don't know exactly where it is. I would think it's somewhere probably around the airport, but it's not a radar for detecting aircraft. It's the weather radar. And the weather radar went into pulse mode. And there were giant flashes of energy coming from the radar, going out 500 miles all the way over here and all the way over to here. 500 mile spread coming from that radar. That's only supposed to go couple hundred miles at the most, right? Anyway, a huge giant energy pulse coming from a radar caught my attention because of the birds that had died there exploded in the sky. The earthquake swarm that was happening there next to the drill points. This is all when I first started. I had no idea, heads or tail, what I was looking at. I made my video on the giant energy pulse. So I'd already made a video on the birds and the fish. People denied that, said there was nothing there for drilling. Obviously there was. And then the energy pulse happened. Now, about a day, maybe 2 days, 48 hours, up to 3 days. I mean, I don't really remember because all my videos are gone. But a giant tornado formed and hit the center of where the energy pulse happened after all that. Not a giant. A tornado formed. A significant tornado formed and hit the center of the transmission. This is at the winter of 2011, right after New Year. And people said it was chance and coincidence that the tornado formed and hit the center of the energy pulse. And they also said it was chance and coincidence on the birds and the fish. And they called me a conspiracy theorist for saying that drill points can lead to earthquakes. It was all in the course of about a week when I first started. So now, here we are now. And I could tell you that energy pulses from radar are confirmed to cause earthquakes down below. California just happened with the hurricane. But earthquakes down below the transmitters, animals can affect on this, so birds and fish, mass die-offs can happen. And it happens next to drill points, and it happens next to volcanoes. When you have all this together in one spot, it's like the perfect storm for the seismic wave. If the seismic wave is coming across the plate, which it is. I already told you about the Craton coming out of Texas, making a bend up to the east-northeast into Arkansas. That's the Craton edge. We got a wave that's coming in and going through here, and you got all that going on right there in the middle. It's prone to break. Now, it's somewhat stopped over the past couple years, slowed down tremendously, as they picked up drilling over here, and the wave coming in, going into here, and breaking there, as opposed to breaking to the east, where it was doing that in 2010 and 2011. Wow. Greenbrier. What a story. Anyway, wouldn't you keep going after you find something like that? A bunch of animals are dying, tens of thousands of them. It's on you to tell everybody about it. You tell everybody about it. Everybody denies it. Denies it means anything. Trying to say it's from fireworks. Okay, let's go back over to the West Coast and quickly wrap this up. Today is the last day of the warning for a 5.0 earthquake in the Valley of California. We got a 4.0 here, 3.9, and a 3.0 here. If you add the two together, it equals a 4. Look where the rings overlap. You see that? Central part of the valley down to Ridgecrest. Like a overlap point. Okay. There is where we have the warning going, in the central part of the valley, from Sacramento down to Ridgecrest. Today is the last day of the warning. We have 4s going all the way across the edge of the Craton. That is no exaggeration. The last 2 days shows it. 444 all the way from Canada down to Texas. I may be wrong on this, and I may miss. It may be a strikeout for me for California for this upper 4 to low 5 to strike. Today is the last day of the warning. I always give it an extra day in case Mother Nature or I am not working on the same schedule. Back to where we started this whole update. 6.3 to 6.5 earthquake just struck on the north side. Well, the north side of the plate boundary. USGS doesn't have the plate boundary marked at all. I've told you about this ad nauseum at this point. On the north side of Iran and Afghanistan, there is a plate boundary that the USGS has somehow missed or has not mapped. Along there is where the earthquake broke, and we're going to look for this to go over to Europe. I've got a 5.5 warning going in the Aegean Sea. I have to up the warning now for the Aegean Sea. This will be in my forecast tomorrow, but I'm putting it out there right now because the whole area is moving from Slovakia all the way back over to Afghanistan and all the way out to the North Pole. It's like a big crescent shape of earthquakes. Do you see that coming out of Asia, going around back up to the North Pole? The only spot missing is here to be filled in to make it a perfect spread all the way across. So I'll think it's going to be bigger now, bigger than 5.5 in the Aegean Sea. Crete north, where the arrow is. That's Greece. That's Turkey. So western Turkey, eastern Greece, Aegean Sea, 6.0 plus now. I'll up it by a half magnitude since we're dealing with a bigger wave than expected coming across. Right now what's happening is going all the way to the North Pole and all the way back to Siberia and China. This wave is going back and forth, and it's going to break at the middle points between the sets of quakes. That's what's happening now. So I think a bigger break is coming over here, kind of lopsided. It's the middle point between all the sets of quakes, right through here. Okay. Oh, man, a lot going on. What else have I not covered? Let's go back and take a look at the planet here. South America. Central America. Well, look, this might be a close shave. I'm looking for a big earthquake here where all the sets of rings overlap. I have not talked about Mexico. Mexico is sandwiched in between where we're looking for a big quake here and where we've got a big amount of energy coming in and going across North America. Right now, you're quiet. Obviously, no significant earthquakes at all in the past 2 days. At all. All of Mexico's gone quiet. Whew, right? No, that's not good. When you go quiet in a seismically prone area on a plate boundary and you're moving on all sides, it means you're building in the middle. So right here, this is Mexico City where the letter V is in Popocatépetl. We go over to the west, we get to Colima volcano out here along the coast. I'll watch between the two for a new earthquake to strike on land that's bigger than what's on all sides now. If we take all the 4s on the north side, add them together, it equals a 5. And if we take the 5s plus the 4s down to the south, that equals about a 5.5. So if we take a 5 plus a 5.5, we're at 5.6. But I have to add in the additional magnitude from around the plate. And guess where that takes us? 6.6. Sound familiar? I mean, 6.5 to 6.6 is what we've been dealing with around the rest of the entire plate. So let's just put it rounded off at 6.5. High end. I'm overkilling on this most likely. It'll probably be under 6.5. But right here in the middle, in between both volcanoes, Colima and Popocatépetl. By the way, what happened to Colima? It used to be on the list every day. I have not checked the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center at all. Let's go take a look. Go see what's going on for the volcanoes. Haven't checked in a while. Luatolo, okay, in Indonesia, 11,000 foot eye blast, flight level 110. Dukono in Indonesia, that's somewhat normal. This right here, wow, they're doing it again. How much loose ash is going to get kicked up by wind up to 5,000 feet or greater at the volcano that we were seeing all the seismic at? What do you want to bet that the volcano is having seismic? It's knocking around a bunch of landslides and rocks, and then that's causing dust to kick up 5,000 feet. And while it's resuspended volcanic ash from the 1918 eruption, that it's exactly what I told you to look for 2 weeks ago, and that something's going on there. I shouldn't say, what do you want to bet? Because somebody will take me up on the bet. I'm just guessing. So it's okay for me to do that. I'll tell you if I'm guessing. Mayon in Philippines, they evacuated all those people 3 months ago and never brought them back. It's still going now. Anything else worth mentioning? I don't see anything huge on the list now. I'm looking for any big blasts or new volcanoes on the list to justify some kind of increase going on, volcanically speaking. To explain or try to say that if it is,
So it's not. There is no big volcanic increase going on right now. However, in the middle of it all, right out here, we're going to watch for Hawaii to do its thing over the next few days. And it could go big. Eruptive-wise. I mean, you might get a big lava flow or something. Seismic is what I'm looking for. I do not forecast volcanoes. Someday, maybe I'll add that in, but right now, that's not going to happen. I got too much on my plate. New Zealand, my New Zealand viewers. Hey, guys, we're watching on the North Island. We got 2 more days. Is it to go? Yeah, 2 more days to go. 2 more days to go. North Island, north of Wellington, south of Taupo. I'm watching for 5.0 level activity. I have no clue what struck down in New Zealand. USGS is telling us nothing struck. Check the USGS feed. 48 hours, 0.0 and greater. Nothing, right? Let's go see what the New Zealand agency is showing us. What's the New Zealand word for earthquake? That's a joke, guys. Come on, I know you speak English down there, right? Okay. Right? I don't know. Last time I was talking, it's hard to understand. Let's go in and take a look at the North Island and figure out if I've got that right 5 days ago on where to watch. We're watching here north of Wellington, south of Taupo, and we're looking at the last 150 reported earthquakes. Let's turn off the magnitudes and just see the spots. Looks like a pincushion of earthquakes. These are deep earthquakes going across the plate boundary. Now, look, if you look at this one, look at these deeps down here. Again, raised higher off the planet. So we go right down to the south tip of New Zealand to the South Alps. And then we kind of peter out up here with deeps up to the north. What's the halfway point between those two? Between all the way down in south and all the way up north where our deeps are. From down here to up here. Halfway point's right in there, right? Right here. What's right there? Well, a bunch of earthquakes. It's impossible to see New Zealand. There it is. So the middle of the area, where we have the warning going from 5 to 6 days ago, has moved now on both sides, all the way out in 1,000 miles each direction. Where the center, I'm watching, still hasn't happened. We have not seen a large earthquake in here yet. What's the biggest we've seen? Magnitude-wise. 3s? 3.6. 4.0? 4.0 is the biggest. I'm looking for a full magnitude higher. No, I'm sorry. 4.5 is the biggest on the south side. Hey, check it out. Hold on. South side 4.5. North side 4.3. 4.0 to 4.3. In the middle is where we're watching for the big break to take place. That's a magnitude larger. And I have not checked the New Zealand feed in God knows how long. I'm turning it off right now. Troll heaven down at GeoNet. GeoNet in New Zealand just needs to rearrange the letters and call it EgoNet. EGONet instead of GEONet. Dude, if you knew the story of what happened there. What a mess. All right. Anyway. Yeah, EgoNet down in New Zealand. Hey, USGS is the BSGS. Here is what we call them. I got sweaters made that say it. BSGS, a changing world for science, is what I said. The USGS logo is science for a changing world. I made brown sweaters in Dookie Brown with the BSGS logo. A changing world for science. 'Cause that's what it is. It's a changing world for science. They have to address and update so many things and throw out so many things about earthquake forecasting and fracking and everything. It's going to require a whole new textbook. They're going to have to rip out whole sections of the previous textbooks and throw them away. Anyway, all right. Enough ranting. Do you have an earthquake plan? The people over in Afghanistan right now, I know that this video will make its way to people in Afghanistan. All I can tell you is that you had a warning from me 7 days ago, before the first one hit. And when the first one hit, we then talked about watching around the area, especially where the break happened, for a spread to take place of similar size. So here we are now, and we get a similar sized quake Not exactly in the same spot as the original 6.3 to 6.5 that struck in Afghanistan. It's right along that range. This reminds me of what happened in Turkey. If you're in Afghanistan, you might not know what happened in Turkey. Let me show you. Several months ago, in Turkey, right here, do you see the red line? Make sure you can see this. This broke with a huge earthquake, killing tens of thousands of people. Then a line of earthquakes went back over to the east and met up with this red line, 1,000 miles over to the east, or 500 miles over to the east in Iran. So a line of quakes, first a big break happened here, then a line of quakes went over to the east, and a line of quakes went over to the west, across this whole area. As it was breaking, professionals were saying they thought it was all done. Well, it broke again and again, and we got multiple large earthquakes that broke. First there at the bend in the plate, or the pinnacle, that triangle shape, and then back over to the east and over to the west. All across here it broke as the whole plate boundary shifted. But you'll see the USGS plate boundaries are down past Cyprus and over in Iran. The spots that broke didn't have red lines on them. The USGS and professionals all said it was the Anatolian fault that was moving, and they refused to connect this point to this point, even though all the earthquakes did. And surface breaking happened, fissure fracturing at the surface. They still call it the Anatolian fault, instead of admitting that there's a plate boundary there. They don't want to have to adjust the textbooks. Previous mapping said that the plate boundary stopped there and another one picked up over to the west. Meanwhile, I'm here to tell you, they connect. And there's a line that goes across east of Tehran, through Afghanistan, back over to Nepal and North India. And you can see the connecting line visibly with your own eyes. You don't need a fault zone map or it to be mapped via radio waves or very low frequency down through the plate. You can see it bent and twisted and contorted in the same way that it is on the plate boundary marked to the south, that there are two plate boundaries, one that goes on the north side and the other that goes on the south side, defining this whole thing between Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan as its own separate plate. And that's a big deal, because they have it contained to Asia, not as its own separate plate. And so the earthquakes follow the plate boundaries. This is an established fact. Look down in Indonesia, USGS even showing it on their one-day feed. Earthquakes follow the plate boundaries like a road or a river or a guide. And the craton edges, which I showed you at the start of this update. Oh, what's this? What? What is this? Dude. Oh, look, what is this on there for some students or something? A 2.6 ice quake. Have you ever seen this? Guys, all right, dude. We're going to go look it up. Ice quake. Ice. They call me the Iceman. Ice. Dun 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 dun. Am I vanilla? I don't know. Ask Anna Merlin. Oh, burn! Oh, I just burned myself, but her too. All right. We're right next to the Heart Peaks. Yeah, ice quake my ass. Level Mountain. Level Mountain is the most voluminous eruptive center in the Sitka volcanic belt, northwest British Columbia. Sitkine. Stiltkine. I can't even read it. Old man needs glasses. The massive volcano covers an area of 1,800 square kilometers. Ice quake. Third. Oh, the parameters all say it's an ice quake at the surface touch. What about the volcano next to it? Nah, there's volcanoes everywhere across the entire coast. Stir. Guys, get me out of here, will you? sliding down that slippery slope of rant. Look, regardless of whether or not I rant or you take me serious or not, or I get goofy or not, this is serious. We got a serious seismic increase that's taking place. Nobody will listen to me across the whole freaking world, whether I'm serious or not. I don't know what's going on, but for some reason the mainstream media came stepping and saw fit to bury me. So now, when I issue warnings, nobody gets them, but I told you guys to watch for this. Over in Afghanistan? Dude, I told you so, man. I hate it when people do I told you so, but I'm straight up telling you I told you so. And that's in a science way. You can repeat the method. Anyone can repeat the method for forecasting. So I'm not trying to sit on top of this and make a buck on the forecasting. You guys can do it yourselves, following the directions. It's very simple. And I've already published step-by-step instructions how to do that. And I explain in every video, too. The middle points are hit, and you add up the earthquakes on all the sides, blah, blah, blah. If you want to know how to do it, it's already out there. We got teens doing it, got kids doing it. So it's fairly simple to do. And it works. You're welcome to test it. As a matter of fact, you could be the first professional to test it. Get your name in the history books. Word up. Peace out. And all sarcasm aside, I do say to you much love. It's been a rough going here, but we've managed to squeak it on out. I find it very interesting that earthquake that I talked about at the start of this update, down in Texas, struck at the exact time I signed up for Nord Antivirus and NordVPN. I think that's just fitting. That's great. Have a good morning, afternoon, night, or evening. And I'll be back, hopefully, with another seismic update. Peace